All right, welcome. So here we go. We have a great show for you today about season-long fantasy. We're going to go over our top quarterbacks, wide receivers, and a few stacks. If you're interested in learning about GPP games, tournament games, or cash games with DraftKings and FanDuel, this is the place you need to be. We're going to come at you every week with our hot takes. I'm joined by my partner in crime here, Leonte Carroo, former Miami Dolphins wide receiver and Rutgers GOAT. And I'm going to pass it to you, Leonte. You ready to get ready for the football season? I know I am.
I've been itching every single day, man. It's the best time of the year. September all the way through February, baby. We got football every Sunday. I'm locked and loaded. You're locked and loaded. Let's go.
All right. So we're going to start off with quarterbacks, and we're going to start off with the top seven ESPN picks. We'll start with season long fantasy. We'll talk a little bit about stacks, as I think we're a little early to get into daily fantasy at this point. But we're sticklers for the game, so we're probably just going to talk about a little of everything. So I'm going to throw these at you, Leonte. So not coming in at number one. I don't think there's any surprise there, despite the failure of the Super Bowl. His record speaks for itself. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. We got Lamar Jackson coming in at number four. Jaden Daniels, big surprise at number five on this list, although maybe not for Commanders fans. And Matt Stafford, and rounding out the top seven is Justin Herbert. Season long, which one of these guys do you have and why?
Season long, just the way the game has transitioned. I think with him picking up a new receiver, where this receiver is still, in my opinion, in his prime, I think Matthew Stafford is going to have a crazy year. With Puka, with their running back Williams, and with now adding Devontae Adams to that offense, you can't really double team Puka anymore. You kind of have to figure out what you're going to do defensively. And I think last year Cooper Cup kind of was just a decoy at the end of the day, and he wasn't really. There was games where Cooper Cup didn't even have a catch. So I think now adding Devontae Adams, you see what he did last year with the Jets, and he had Aaron Rodgers. I think Matt Stafford is better than Aaron Rodgers right now, and I think that he's going to have a crazy year. I think obviously you could pick, the Lamar Jacksons and the Mahomes and the Josh Allen, but if you want to bang for your buck, I think Matt Stafford's going to have a crazy year this year.
All right. So as far as longevity goes, do any of these guys scare you? Like that they could be a week one injury or a week three injury, and you could lose them for the major part of the season? Or
It's funny you say that. I've been watching this QB quarterback show on Netflix, and Joe Burrow's phenomenal, right? But he's been hurt almost every year he's been in the league. Last year was like kind of his first year, kind of having a full year, but he is a little injury prone. His first two seasons, ACL, wrist, shoulder, and things like that. So, and also his offensive line got weaker. So, I'm watching the show and I didn't realize how many times he got sacked and how much pressure. He's just out there. So, a guy like Joe Burrow, kind of scares me for the year. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the high hopes that the Bengals have this year with the season. There's a lot of pressure on them. They signed T. Higgins. They re-signed Gesicki. They re-signed Jamar Chase. So, all these guys are coming back. He has all his, offensive threats. But at the same time, his offensive line is pretty weak. So he's a guy that could scare me throughout the year.
all right. So before we get to my picks, I just want to ask you about sleepers. Any sleepers that you have? Jalen Hurts, maybe Jackson Dart. Anybody you feel good about that may outperform season wide this core seven? If you're lucky enough to have the first seven picks in your draft, or maybe you're not, and you're looking for a guy that may perform as well or just equal to any of these guys, who do you have?
Yeah, it's crazy that the ESPN left Jalen Hurts out the top seven. I mean, for Jalen Hurts to be on our sleeper list is kind of disrespectful in my opinion. For ESPN to leave him out like that, like this guy has went to two Super Bowls in his career. He outperformed Mahomes in the first Super Bowl they played. They just lost the game, but he actually had better stats in that game. And last Super Bowl, I think it just gave him a lot of confidence. I mean, that bomb he threw to Devontae Smith. I think a lot of people say he can't throw the ball, but when you got a guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield and you got two stud receivers, I think it's going to be very hard to game plan for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a phenomenal year. I think that Super Bowl just put him to the next level, and I think he's going to be playing lights out, and he's going to show the NFL and show everybody around that he can throw the ball, and that he should be a top five quarterback in this league.
Yeah, and I think that's unfortunate, especially as an Eagles fan. I've been watching Jalen Hurts play since he started for the Eagles, and he's always been lights out. I put him on a level of any of these guys. I mean, not he. You can say he's not a deep threat, but at the end of the day, if you look at Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, they are always deep threats.
Yep.
So if he wasn't a deep threat, then how does Saquon Barkley get open? A lot of the, I guess, a lot of the white noise around Jalen Hurts don't really make sense.
Yeah.
I think for fantasy long, I agree with you. He's probably going to be cheaper than any of these guys, and
Yep.
you probably will be able to get him in the first 9, 10 picks. I would take him only because the upside of the tush push. You know he's going to score 8 rushing touchdowns in the season. You
Yep.
know it,
Yep.
and he's definitely going to throw for some with that receiving core that he has. That nobody's got away, and everybody's just getting better. So certainly Jalen Hurts will be on my radar if I'm lucky enough to have that first 10 picks. If you're not lucky enough to have first 10 picks and you want to start your team, your fantasy season long fantasy team with a quarterback, who else would you pick?
I think I'm gonna go with the guy who I don't think is gonna have a sophomore slump. I think Jaden Daniels is gonna have a
Well,
great
he's
year.
he's in the top 5, so
Oh,
someone not in this
oh,
top
not in
10
the
list.
top
I
five.
think, yeah, I mean, you're also right. Somebody might not pick Jaden Daniels,
Yeah.
but anybody like not in that top 8, 9. Jalen Hurts. Let's throw in Dak Prescott,
Okay, I
and
got a guy,
maybe
Jordan Love.
okay,
I
okay,
like Jordan Love from Green Bay. I mean,
yeah.
that offense, they're always looking to throw the ball. Another guy, based off this QB show that I'm watching, is Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff has all his weapons coming back. Sam Laporta, St. Brown. You can't forget about the running backs in the backfield, Gibbs and Montgomery. I think that offense, even though they lose Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson's now the head coach for the Bears, and he was kind of the reason why they had success on offense. I still think Jared Goff is Jared Goff. The city of Detroit loves him, and I think he's going to have a great year too. He's another sleeper where if you could pick up Jared Goff, you should get him because he has offensive weapons all around him. So chances of him not throwing for 200 yards a game, it's kind of slim.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where I always get thrown off with my yearly fantasy and my daily fantasy because I'm always thinking about my daily fantasy. So I guess I have a daily fantasy question to ask you, not to get off topic, but I heard that Shador Sanders is having a really great training camp. Would you take a chance on him week 1 in a weekly fantasy pick just for a tournament game, not for a season long? I think he's too risky for a season long. You may disagree, but I think he's too risky for a season long. But just that week 1 matchup, if you just had to pick a lineup for that week 1, he's probably going to be 2,500 or $3,000. Would you take the chance on Shador if he's starting over Joe Flacco?
I absolutely will, and here's the reason why. He gives me like Jameis Winston vibes. Like he's one of those guys that I feel like Shador could come in the game and he could throw for 150, 2 picks, and then the next game he could throw for 500 yards. Like he's one of those guys. Obviously, his dad is one of the greatest football players of all time, so he has a lot of confidence. He's confident in himself, and I think he's gonna shock a lot of people. I'm not saying he's gonna be a guy that takes the Browns to the playoffs, but I think he's gonna have games where he put the offense in great situations and the defense might have lost him the game. He's a very confident kid. His stats were well at Colorado, well enough where, he ended up still being a draft pick, even though people thought he was going to be much higher. I mean, he's a guy where he was number one quarterback on the board at one point, so he's not, the talent is there. I just think it's the outside stuff and, his dad has a lot to do with all that stuff. So I think if he locks in and he focuses on football, I think he could have a phenomenal year, seriously.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. So I'm going to give you my two, and I'm going to look at the screen on this. I'm going to look at the camera directly into the camera on this one. There's no magic bullet to this. If you come in first in your draft and you have a pick at a top quarterback, you better bet your bottom dollar that you're picking Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Do not mess around. I love Joe Burrow, but like Leonte said, he might get injured. I love Lamar Jackson, but we start to see with athletic quarterbacks. I mean, it even happened to Michael Vick. It happens to everybody. Year 5, year 6, they start to slow down a little. I think Lamar's an awesome passer, but he scares me the way he dances around the pocket. And Leonte can tell you from playing this league, I can tell you from playing football my whole life and playing in college, that that old song and dance gets real dangerous at some point. And the same message goes for Jaden Daniels. I think that teams weren't really ready for him. He
Yeah.
he really everybody if you looked at the Commanders last year, they were the underdog in every game until they made it to the Eagles
Yep.
to play late into the playoffs. Um, that's another case of they're gonna have it out for him this season. And if he's getting cute in the backfield, the NFL is no place to do that. So if you have one of these top 5 picks, I'd stick with Mahomes. I'd stick with Allen. I'd go with Stafford or even Justin Herbert. I'd stay away from the running quarterbacks for a season long. I'm not talking about daily fantasy. Daily fantasy, I want my Lamar Jacksons. I want my Jaden Daniels. I know they're up. Their ceiling is so darn high that they could rush for two, throw for two. They could even catch for one. That's how athletic they are, throwing Josh Allen to that bunch.
Yep.
So those are the guys you want. But on a season long, you have to start thinking. You think about longevity, and the guys with a track record of playing a whole season in the NFL are Matt Stafford, Pat Mahomes, and Josh Allen.
Yep.
So I mean, even Justin Herbert to an extent, I think he's been a mostly durable quarterback, even though he was injured 2 seasons ago, or last season. So those are the guys you want to look at.
When it comes to fantasy, right? You want your fantasy picks really playing well in like November, December, right?
Yeah,
Towards the
yeah,
end of the year, they really get you those points
yeah,
and to really dominate late in the season. It's really like you don't know what's going to happen in the beginning of the season,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
you want your guys to be durable out there playing November, December games and January games to get ready to have that momentum going into the playoffs.
Yeah, so the season long fantasy it's a marathon. That's what it
Yeah.
is. You want guys that aren't going to get hurt.
Yep.
Aren't, I mean, I can tell you how many season long fantasies where I had a guy on the bench, like a Geno Smith, the first year he bombed out, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to use Geno this whole year. And my quarterback that year was I believe it was Aaron Rodgers when he went down the first game with the Jets, and Geno carried me through that season.
Yep.
So you also have to be thinking about that with your backup quarterback. Let's say, God forbid, this guy does go down. Do you have that Jordan Love in your back pocket?
Yep.
And I guess it's depending on how big your fantasy draft is. Some people play with 100 players on ESPN. Some people play with 10 of their friends. Those tend to be the easier ones to win. Although I got my booty kicked 2 seasons ago in my friends' league, thanks to Aaron Rodgers. But those are the things you want to think about for season long. I mean, not as much with your wide receivers, because when wide receivers go out, and Leonte can tell you all about this. It's generally for a minor injury, groin pull, hamstring, something like that. Running backs and quarterbacks, a little bit of a different dynamic for injury reasons. My sleepers this year, I got to tell you, I know a lot of Giants fans are going to watch this. Do not pick Jackson Dart for your season long fantasy. He is unproven. There's going to be a lot of hype because the New York media market, right, going in. So people saying, I'm picking Jackson Dart. I'm picking Jackson Dart. Do not pick Jackson Dart. I'm telling you. I don't know if Leonte, you agree with me with that, or do you have a different spin on that, or what do you think? But how do you feel about
I
that?
agree also. I agree also for something you didn't mention. He has Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in his QB room. So I think that the Giants are going to be rotating quarterbacks like crazy all year. I think Jackson Dart has a bad game. Russell Wilson goes in. Russell Wilson has a bad game. Let's try Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston shits the bed by week 6. Let's put Jackson Dart back in.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
going to be all over the place. You don't know what you're going to get out of those 3 quarterbacks. So I would stay away from any of those Giants quarterbacks, to be honest.
Yeah, and as we were talking about Shador Sanders, like who knows if Joe Flacco is going to play or what the situation. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd say Flacco doesn't make it through the season. I know he's shown signs of brightness, but he's not exactly a tier one athlete, and I don't know if he can play a full NFL season at quarterback at his age.
Yeah.
But I digress on that. So, do you have anything else to add on quarterbacks? Any like hot takes or sleepers that we forgot about for season long? Anybody you can think of that you take a shot on? Let's say you're in a big league and you got the 25th pick or the 35th pick. Who you going out with? If there's any quarterbacks left, who you going out with quarterback?
Only because I think it's time for him to really step up and separate himself. I got to go with Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
Jaguars quarterback. He has weapons all around him. He just picked up Travis Hunter now. He's going to play a little receiver. So he's a guy that has the talent. He's a guy that just got paid in this league $150 million. So I think he has to have a year where he proves to the Jags owners and staff that he's going to be the guy there to stay for the next 4 years. So this is a big year for him.
So would you take a chance if you had like the 15th pick on like a Bo Nix or a Mike Penix?
I'm staying away from Penix all year. I mean, he does have a lot of talent, but I don't know what he's gonna. I don't know what you're gonna get out of him. I never thought he was that great coming out of Washington. I didn't like his throwing mechanics. I think DBs could sit on his routes and just pick him off all day. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of him. I would rather take Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix has some kahunas to him. I think he showed that last year. I think he's a really, really tough quarterback. And like, those tough quarterbacks really do make it in the league. He gives me like Big Ben kind of vibes. Like he's not scared of the moment. He just, he airs the ball out and he has a lot of talent at receiver around him with Sutton. So I think he could have he's a good sleeper too as well.
Yeah, so I mean, and so we're going to move on to wide receivers, and the reason why we do this is, I mean, I guess for you beginners out there, fantasy experts will know this. If you're going to pick, if you can get an early pick to get one of these gunslinging quarterbacks, you're going to want to pick a receiver to stack him with, preferably his number one if you can get it. And if you got the number one pick, or the number two, or even the number three, there's a good chance you can get their number one or even number two receiver, which you're going to want.
Yep.
So ESPN's top 10 ranked receivers are at this point Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, CD Lamb, AJ Brown, Saint Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, and Garrett Wilson from the Jets to and I can't believe Puka's not on that list, but we'll save that for a little bit later. But so out of these, so it's crazy this year because generally you would have the top 10 quarterbacks with the top at least five of the top 10 wide receivers. We don't have that this year. So this is going to be a bit of a mix and match here. Other than Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase,
Yep.
there's not a lot of mixing and match and stacking going on right here. So how do you make this work, Leonte? Let's say you get one of these top 10 guys. What receiver do you want to I mean, maybe even you don't want to go with the top 10. Maybe you do want to pick Travis Kelsey, blow your first pick. Like your tight end's going to be your wide receiver. But let's say you didn't, and you had, and other than like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, which we both have caution against Joe Burrow just because of his health issues. Who would you pick in this to go with your starting quarterback in this group?
From this group, well, I'm gonna go with somebody that's not on this top 10.
Okay.
I'm gonna go because let's match up the number one guy with like a receiver. I'm gonna go like if you want a lot of bang for your buck, like I said before, go with Rashid Rice.
Okay.
He's coming back. He was hot at the beginning of the season last year. He was super hot. He got hurt, but I think in the beginning of the season he scored 6 touchdowns in like 3 games. That's going to be Mahomes' number one target. That he has him coming back for a whole year. Rashid Rice is going to be phenomenal this year.
So do you think if Keenan Allen remains a free agent, and I could see the Chiefs grabbing him, would you pick Keenan Allen if the Chiefs or any of these top 7 teams grabbed him?
Yeah, if any of these top quarterbacks grab Keenan Allen, I'm for sure taking him. He
Okay.
he is, he kind of got lost in the sauce with the Bears last year, but he is very
I
talented.
think he can still do it. Yeah.
Oh, he
Yeah.
can definitely still do it.
Yeah.
Devontae Parker. I mean, sorry, not Devontae Parker. That was my old teammate.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams is not on this list as well.
Yeah.
I think he is going to have a phenomenal year. Like I said, with Matthew Stafford, he's another guy that you could pick up. He's going to be insane. And then also Puka is not on this list. As far as the top 10, Puka is another sleeper. Where I feel like you could really make some money if you take Puka in your fantasy.
Yeah. So for a season long, which one of these guys stand out to you as a wide receiver who's going to play every game and maybe potentially even a playoff game?
St. Brown for sure.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think St. Brown out of all these receivers are. I don't think he might have missed one game in his career or maybe two. He's a phenomenal blocker. He's very durable. He's already proven that he could pretty much play a whole season. I watched the wide receiver show on Netflix. Also, you guys got to watch that. He played like the last 2 games of the season with broken ribs. Basically, he had like something wrong with his ribs or something, and he was just playing in games. He's a tough kid. He's a weight room machine. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite receivers in the league right now.
Yeah, and I think this is where it gets tricky with season long for me because at the end of the day, season long wide receivers are really hard because at the end of the day, you don't want a receiver who's going to sit out the last 3 games.
Yeah,
Like I would say AJ Brown, but I know there's a big potential that when fantasy season wide fantasy playoffs are going on, those are the last 3 weeks of the season.
yep,
There's a good chance that AJ Brown might not play 2 or 3 of those games
yep,
if the Eagles win the division. And the same goes for the Washington Commanders. So
yep,
that's something you definitely have to keep in mind when picking that first round. I mean, the second round, obviously, you get one of those guys, you get them.
yeah,
But first round picks, you want a guy who's going to play every game, and for wide receivers, even for a sucky team, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people get caught up in the season wide fantasy, and they're like, "Oh, I want to pick the best receiver on the best team."
yeah,
That always doesn't win the season. What wins is the guys who are scoring, like you talked about, Rashid Rice scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns in garbage time at the end
yep,
of the game. That's what you don't care about them winning the game. You want them to score 2 or 3 touchdowns or a touchdown in garbage time and be playing to like where their season still matters in week 18, and they're scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns in week 18. That's what gets people over the hump to win
Yeah.
these season-wide fantasy leagues.
I mean, look at Tariq Hill, right?
Yeah,
People probably took Tariq Hill with their first pick last year
exactly. Yeah,
and got screwed over.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
another guy that's not well, another guy that you talked about, a guy that's going to play basically the whole season. We might as well go with all reliable Mike Evans.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, he's always shown that he's consistent. He's chasing history at this point. I think he's trying to go for like the all-time. You know, I don't think he could catch Jerry Rice, but you know, he's had 1,000 yards in every season that he played in. So I think Mike Evans is really, really reliable, and I think he's going to get another 1,000 yard season. Another guy that's not on his list is who had a phenomenal Super Bowl, like you just talked about with garbage time, is Worthy.
Yeah.
He's the fastest player in NFL history, and I think, like I talked about with Jalen Hurts, confidence. You know, he just came off that Super Bowl game. Now his confidence is high because now he's like, I did it on the national stage. I did it in front of the whole world watching, and I think I think the Chiefs are gonna find ways to get creative with him, and he's gonna have a phenomenal year.
So I'll tell you who I'm not. I mean, I think you can't really go wrong with a lot of these guys, and we'll go into our sleepers and rookies after this. Um, because going into rookies for quarterbacks would be completely insane. But for wide receivers, we've seen, especially over the last 5 or 6 years, that rookie wide receivers have really come in and played lights out. I don't think that's going to change this year in the NFL because I just think the game has changed. And Leonte played wide receiver in the NFL, so he'd actually be the perfect person to talk about that. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So a guy that um like me looking at this list, right? A guy that I would stay away from, guys, is Malik Neighbors, and I'll tell you why. The Giants really have no other receiver threat. They have no running back really. Their offensive line is not really that good. So who are teams going to key on? Malik Neighbors. Also, he has three quarterbacks that they don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. So he's getting reps with all three of them. You don't know the timing. You don't know which guy is going to fit that's best for him. I think he kind of had a little thing going on towards the end of the year with Daniel Jones last year. Now he has three quarterbacks that he's getting first teams reps with, and I think it's going to be all over the place. I would stay away from Malik Neighbors this year, just because you don't know what you're going to get, and I also think teams are just going to double team him. Like, all right, Giants have nobody else to get a first down. Let's just double team this guy.
Yeah.
You know, like that would make sense if I'm a defensive coordinator. You know.
Yeah, I think the Giants are gonna. I mean, you can never tell in the NFCs, but I think the Giants are gonna have a historically bad season, only because, like you said, like we won't know who the quarterback's gonna be going into Week 1. And the New York media market, there's gonna be tremendous pressure to get Jackson Dart in there when they have two veterans who have proven that they can win in the NFL.
Yep.
And I mean, look at Jameis Winston. I mean, he's a top five receiver receiving yards. Passer passing yards every single year he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I like when he started. So I mean, I don't know how you discount those guys and go, too right to the rookie. But I mean, the Giants will find a way to make it happen. But like you said, I think like Malik Neighbors is very dangerous on this list. I would also stay away from Garrett Wilson, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
because I think the Jets are in a similar position. I think they're coming into a season with a new quarterback. They don't know what they really have on offense at this point, besides Garrett Wilson and their running back. So I would certainly try to stay away from those two guys.
I tell you what, though, you feel better once you get paid.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
he just
true.
got paid
That's
$100
true.
million,
Yeah.
so he might be
Yeah.
out there running routes, throwing one hand
Yeah.
catches and everything. But like you said, Justin Fields, don't know. He's not. He's not a better passer than Aaron Rodgers was last year, and Garrett kind of had a quiet year. So
Yeah. Two guys on this list who I think are going to bust this year are C.D. Lamb and Nico Collins. I
yes,
think that the
yes,
Texans have really beefed up, and they're just going to be really good this year.
yes,
So if you can steal Nico with those first couple of picks, even if you got like a sexy piece of meat hanging in front of you like Justin Jefferson or Tariq Hill, I gotta tell you, I'm picking Nico Collins or Amon St. Brown. I'm not even
yeah,
going with those top guys. And AJ Brown, I mean, I love AJ Brown, but I told you he might not play the last 2 games of the
yeah,
season, and he does get hurt, but he always comes through. But he might be out 3 or 4 games, like
yep.
just on a floor.
And
So
then CD Lamb got his best friend back. So
yeah,
Dak's back.
yeah,
They
Dak
have
is
that
back. Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
He's going to go for at least 1,500
Yeah.
this year. So
And I think the Cowboys have really moved away from the running the offense that they ran under Pollard and with Zeke, and they're moving more towards of like we're going to be the fastest show on turf
yep.
when we're at home, which they can do minus the sun in their eyes.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when they can do it, they are going to do it, and we know how well Dak plays on the rug. So I
Yep.
think certainly CeeDee Lamb is probably my number one. So any sleepers or rookies you would take, if let's say you're not in this top tier, or like I mean, we passed up on a lot of these guys in this top tier. Even if you have like the fifth or sixth pick, any sleepers or rookies you would take a shot on for your season long draft.
Yes, I'm taking a rookie that Tampa Bay drafted from Ohio State. Buka,
Oh, Egma
Egma.
Egbuka,
Yeah.
yeah.
He I heard from OTAs and veteran minicamp, I heard he was the best receiver on the field. Like no one could stop him.
Wow.
He's been balling the whole OTAs going into training camp. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. He's big, he's fast. He's one of the top 5 receivers in Ohio State history, and all the receivers that they had drafted in the first round these last couple years. I think he's a sleeper for sure, and I think if you're out there, you should definitely invest in him because he's going to have a phenomenal year.
Yeah,
And we know Baker loves to throw that ball.
absolutely, and it would be, and Mike Evans is going to need a breather.
Yeah.
So, and it'll be interesting to see where he comes in because there's definitely a lot of hype, and in past years, DraftKings and FanDuel have had these like rookie guys. They've always played them cautiously. So I wonder, like, if with the past couple years with guys like Puka, and then last year even like guys were coming in and just dominating their rookie years, if we're gonna have and Bowers and stuff, if we're gonna have a higher price, I would say like just for a week, I'm always throwing a week long. I can't wait. I'm frothing at the mouth for my week long fantasy. I would definitely take a chance on him especially if he's like 3,500, 3,000.
Yeah. I mean, because it's a good point that you just said. Because last year, you had Brock Bowers, right? He went off. Malik Neighbors went off, and Brian Thomas went off. You had 3 rookies that just completely just did absurd numbers. I think all those 3 of those guys went over 1,000. So I could definitely see this guy for the Bucks definitely going off. I think he's going to play a lot of slot, which is going to be a very big advantage for him. With Mike Evans on the outside, and he just works the middle and works, those zones like I talked about before, and I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. Luther Burden is going to have a great year too.
Okay. Yes.
I've
Yeah.
always liked him coming out of Missouri. I thought he was extremely talented. He's fast. He runs good routes. He's a little, but I think he's really, really, really good. Watch out for him as well.
So you already talked about Ibuka. So like for McMillan, Travis Hunter, and Luther Burden, how low are you willing to go before you see this guy, he's your next pick? Like how many rounds? Like is he going to be like your third starter? Is he going to be your second bench player? Tell me about that. Any of these rookies?
I could see Mbuka being like I could see him being like my second starter, to be
Okay.
honest.
Wow.
Yeah, like I like him that much, especially with a Baker Mayfield who loves to throw the ball. For these other guys, McMillan, I'm staying far away from. I think he is very overhyped. And I mean this in no disrespect. I don't think he is going to have the year that everyone thinks he's going to have. I think he's a big receiver. He's strong, but he's also on the Panthers, and you don't know what you're going to get out of Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young finished the year strong last year. He really did. But I heard from OTAs that the other kid from Colorado, was actually uh, doing better. Horn Jr. I heard Horn Jr. was actually doing better than McMillan in
Okay.
OTAs.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm staying away from McMillan. But like I said with Mbuka, I think that he could be literally like my second starter. I'm not even joking. Like if I had like a Jamar Chase number 1, I would take him number 2. I swear to God.
So would you take a chance on any of these rookies for a bench player, or you just leave them alone? You're
No.
picking an established guy.
Yeah, I'm picking an established guy.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I could go get like a I could go get like one of these strong second year guys.
Like a Van Jefferson,
Yeah,
or
like a
yeah,
Van
yeah, okay,
Jefferson or
yeah,
something like that to
yeah,
be kind of like my bench guy.
okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. All right, so somebody we didn't talk about, Puka. So if you can get Puka ahead of the top 10, we just talked about Jefferson Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and the rest. You picking Puka over all those guys, or where do you put him in the middle? Or
Yeah, I think Puka's going to be a lot of people's first round pick. To be honest, I think once you get past Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, in my opinion, St. Brown, and maybe Chase or Chase for sure. I think a lot of people would take Puka over Tariq Hill.
I think you're totally insane if you would pick Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill.
Nico Collins.
I don't know about Nico, but even like maybe to an extent, Mike Evans over Puka. I got
Yeah,
Puka over all. Like, despite what ESPN's saying, like, and I get it. Like, these are the Vegas experts who are like crunching the numbers, and like this is just for season. Disclaimer: it's just for season long fantasy. They're crunching the numbers and stuff like that. Like, I totally get that, but like at the end of the day, like we know that the Rams are going to throw more than any other team.
yeah,
We know what Puka can do. He's young. He's
yes,
fast. He's durable as hell.
yeah. He's tough
He
as
played
hell.
every play
Yeah,
last
and not to
season.
mention when you think about fantasy, right? You think about stats and stuff like that. You got to think about right because especially when I'm like betting on FanDuel, like sometimes it's not very high odds for receivers to get 5 catches in one game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it's like Mike Evans to get 5 catches is like sometimes plus 120, something like that. Puka is like a guaranteed 5 catch guy.
Yeah.
He's going to get 5 catches a game. He's probably going to finish the game with at least 80 yards, and he's probably going to score one touchdown.
Yeah, he might break one of those.
Yeah.
And I think the flip side with him is like he's a jet sweep guy. Like he's just so versatile. His chance of getting into the end zone, getting you those 6 points are just much higher.
Yep.
So any sleepers that you have wide receiver wise that you not sleepers like bench guys, but like that's not on this list, not Puka that we're talking about that you would take as a wide receiver.
Um, yeah, I like Lad. I like Lad from the Chargers.
Okay.
Slot guy. He got hurt last year. But Justin Herbert likes to throw the ball a lot. The Chargers love to throw the ball. Justin Herbert like averages almost 350 yards a game. And I think that he's going to, like I talked about before, confidence. I think last year gave him a lot of confidence from him coming back from injury. And I think he's going to work the slot. And he's going to kind of have like that almost kind of Cooper Cup year to year. Cooper Cup won the Triple Crown. Like he's going to have like that kind of like white boy who's swaggy and could catch and could run routes and have a great year.
Yeah, and I think like I mean you brought it up already, but I think Devontae Adams is my sleeper, right? Like he's still gonna be able to play. He's gonna have a new quarterback. Like you said, they're gonna go off. So I don't know if I'd pick him as my first pick, but I'd certainly either pick him as my second or third receiver. I have him on my bench. I wouldn't like write him off as like wash because I don't think he is, unless you disagree, Leonte.
Oh no, I don't disagree at all. And then we didn't talk about any other position right now, but just because they almost play like receivers, I'm definitely you could look into Brock Bowers. He's basically like he's a tight end, but he's in that Raiders offense, he's their receiver. So
Yeah, so especially the way you build your build your team. Like if you, I'm not actually totally against saying, all right, Brock Bowers is going to be my number one receiver,
yeah,
and like I'll backfill behind him, knowing he's
yeah,
going to get all the
yeah,
targets in the end zone. Because
yep,
at the end of the day, the 6 points is worth more than the 80 yard, 60 yard no touchdown
yeah,
game.
yep,
So I think definitely think about that strategy. What tight ends, and I think there's a few more on that list. We went over tight ends last week, so
yeah.
if you want to learn more about tight ends, just click right here in the top corner. You'll see our last video. Next week, we're going to be going over running backs and defenses. So click right here, and we'll catch you last week. All right, we'll catch you next week. Leonte, you got any shout outs to give before we sign off here?
No, we're good. Good luck this football season. We're going to be giving you guys lock picks, and
That's
you guys are
right.
going to be satisfied. This is going to be a fun football season.
That's right. So we'll be right back at you next week with our running backs and defenses for season long fantasy. Maybe we'll throw some flex players in there too, so you can kind of work out your lineups with swapping maybe some tight ends or running backs as receivers and build a really good lineup to get you through your season long fantasy so you can beat your friends and wave that trophy in their face or make them wear that Dolphins jersey or whatever you make them wear at the end of the season. But stick around because as we get closer to football to week one, we will be doing our weekly GPP tournaments and cash games on FanDuel and DraftKings. Stick with us. We have former NFL player Leonte Carroo here. We have almost Millie Maker winner Mike Embrich here, which is me. And we're going to keep bringing you the best picks for the fantasy football season. So stay tuned, folks.